Alright, so you're probably a hardcore person who wants a lot out of their life. You know what to do, but you just want to actually execute on it, and probably a good desk setup is something that will help you execute a lot more on what you actually want to do with your life. Because if you're motivated to do the work, you'll do it more often. But obviously you should have discipline along with that. But basically here's my desk setup and how I've optimized it to be basically perfect for me. So I'm Iman. I help people with mental and physical health reframes, and technology is a big part of our lives. So if we can make this better, then we can achieve our purpose a lot easier by making it easier to actually work and do the hard task. Alright, so here's the desk setup, right? So I basically have here a little bit of a stand, right? My laptop. And here, well, it's a little bit dusty, but this is basically just like a little bit of a cooling stand. So when I turn on the actual thing, you can see that it just turns on the fan there. It helps keep the laptop a little bit cool, right? There it is. And this is actually probably the most confusing part of my setup, but this is what actually makes all of it actually like function and work. So I have obviously the power going from there. Obviously I need to go manage this, but it goes into here. This is basically a power brick that attaches to this. And yeah, this is the input, right? And then I have a couple more inputs. So I have two for the hard drives. This is like a big 2 terabyte one, 1 terabyte. Basically just helps me keep storage on it and have it function properly. So I can have like expanded storage. So I can have extra footage on here and like, I don't know, just files on here, like videos and stuff like that. And then obviously my keyboard, my mouse is wireless. So this is the MX Master 3. I got this as a pretty good deal. And yeah, this is in Bluetooth mode. So I just turn it on and then I can select where it goes. So if I'm on Windows, then I just put it on 1. If I'm on Linux, I put it on 2. And then the way that this actually gets power is from here. There's another USB port here, and that gives power to the fans. And then I need another USB for some reason to actually have like the USB pass-through function for this. So I have this connecting into here. So one for power, then the other one is for the USB. I connect it back into here. And then I have my Razer mouse here because I'll explain it later, but basically just to pass this through to another basically a computer. I have my microphone there, so there it is. And this is a monitor, so this is a 40-inch, I think it's 40-inch Samsung monitor. It's technically not considered a TV, but it's basically a TV. And then my speakers, obviously, right? Toyota Supra 2JZ, right? This is my keyboard. This, I got it for like $2 at a garage sale. It's like barely holding up. But this is the Razer Black Widow. So it sounds pretty nice. And then this is basically my old one. And then I have another mouse here, actually, that goes all the way over here. And he broke the CD drive, that's my nephew who broke it. But that's that, right? This is like a PC, just in case I ever need a PC. Most times I don't. Obviously, in a couple videos ago, I told you about the Mastic Gum. I do chew on that, and that's just right here. Easy access, so I always use it. And here's how the whole setup actually comes to life. So I have my laptop here. It's not connected to anything. This is just standalone right now. I connect it to the USB-C right here, the USB-C port. Connect it in, right? And then I put this over top, so like, just in case, like, it won't really like mess anything up. And then I press the power button on this. So the fan kicks in, the keyboard kicks in. I'll turn on the monitor just so you can see how that works. So there's the monitor, right? Everything works here. I put my mouse over, it goes back here. And so yeah, it just connects and that's completely like working, functions, right? And obviously I have my speakers here. I have the little remote here, I can turn it on. And then there it is, it's turned on. And then just in case, like it's like early in the morning, like 5 a.m. It's a rest day and like I'm not at the gym obviously, so I'm gonna do some work. Then right here, I take this, I plug it in here, and that's basically just wired up to this. So it's just wireless headphones, right? And yeah, it's pretty low latency, it works pretty well. So the reason I use this instead of using the little PC right down here, the reason why I do that is because I don't really have to worry about like, trying to have the same apps on both like my laptop and my PC, having the same files on both, right? Having to deal with cloud storage, right? So it's just easier to have just one laptop that does everything. I connect that. It's like a workhorse basically. It's an i9. It has basically an equivalent to a 3060 inside of it. So video editing, Photoshop, it does all of that pretty well. And the main thing about this is portability, right? So if I ever have like a project that I'm working on, I have it on my computer, right there. I'm working on it over there, and then, let's say I have to go somewhere, then it's no big deal. Right here, I'll unplug this, and then I'll basically turn off the power supply to all of these peripherals. I can take the mouse with me. I can have a choice between this one or, this one. So I can just take my whole setup with me on the go. On top of that, this has pretty decent battery life. In Windows, I'm getting about like 8 to 9 hours. And in Linux, I get like 12 hours. And one more thing I forgot to actually mention. So the reason why I actually have this wireless mouse is because I don't really like the resistance of having this, right? Because if I'm turning it to the right, then it's kind of an awkward position, right? And if I just have this, and if I'm turning it to the right, it's completely fine. It's not like trying to pull me back towards the middle, towards where the cable came from. So that's why I actually, have a wireless mouse. But everything about this setup is to reduce friction. The least friction that you have in order to do your task, the more you will actually do your task. Now, just for the software side of things, let's just go dive into that. Here's basically like my setup, right? So I have something called the DWM. It's like a nerd kind of thing, right? But now I basically chose this because it's a lot better for productivity. So let me just show you a little bit of it, right? If I want to open up like a terminal, then it's literally just Windows, Shift, and then Enter. Or I can do Windows T. So there it is, right? And if I want to have some sort of program, then Alt space, I can search up any program. Let's just like put up Firefox, right? There it is. And if I want to actually change how it like tiles, then this is the main part of it. It's tiling. So I can change the size of, I can change the size of the left half, which is called the master. I can increment the master, which means there's more on the master. So that means there's only one column now. I can decrement it, which means that there's only on the second column. Obviously, this is very complicated, right? It's not at all necessary, but this is a way to increase productivity. On top of that, it just looks pretty decent. It's kind of like no frills. It helps a lot. And if I want to pop up like a calendar, Alt C. If I want to pop up my task manager, Windows Shift W, boom, I can search up tasks. I can also do this. Everything is pretty easy to do, have it function in here. On top of that, this whole setup, it increases the battery life on the laptop, which is pretty cool. On Windows, it's pretty like horrible. It's using up a lot of the RAM. And on this, it's like 12 hours of battery life, right? If I just unplug it, I'll show you right here. So right here, it says 13 hours of battery life right now. So just on 100% is at 13 hours of battery life, which is pretty good. But you have to realize what I'm running. I'm running my task manager, my calendar app, in the background, Firefox, the script for this video, and I'm probably using like 4 gigs of RAM right now. And on battery life, it's saying 13 hours. So that's pretty good. And on top of that, this whole setup, it kind of removes the mouse. I can use everything without a mouse. So with all these keybinds and shortcuts, it's very easy to just navigate without the mouse, right? And one more thing you might be thinking about is Windows Hello. So obviously it won't work on Linux, right? But let me just show you. So if I want to install a program, I already wrote out the command to install it. I'll press enter. And I'll show you right here. You see how the IR emitters are going? I'll stay here for a second and boom. It already just like put in my password. I'll use that to open my computer. If it ever needs me to put in my password to do something, I'll use Face ID. So this computer has Face ID and it's from I think 2018 or 2019 and Macs don't have Face ID yet. So yeah. Also quick interruption. So you see that jawline? I actually made a video on how I got that, so you can check that out. Okay, so a couple more things for my setup. So here's how it looks, right? I have all of this right here, Wi-Fi, whatever. But one quick thing what actually helps me a lot when I'm editing like local files, right? Instead of using like Notepad or something like that, well, you don't even have Notepad on here. I use something called NVIM. So this is not a description of me lazy. That is not me for real. But this is actually a pretty good, file editor. So it's based on something called Vim, and it uses the same Vim keybind. So obviously if I'm like opening up these windows, right, all of these little keybinds, they're based off of Vim, which means J is to go down and K is to go up, and H is to go left and L is to go right. So that's why this works right here. And then also that. So in order to type, you can't actually type. Like right now I'm typing, nothing's working. So I typed in some random characters by just spamming, but I spammed a lot and nothing actually happened. So you have to press I to insert characters. You can type in whatever, and once you're done, you press escape. And then you can just use, instead of using arrow keys to move around, you use, let me just put some extra text just to show you. Instead, what you use is J and K to go up, J down, K up, L to go right, and H to go left. So it keeps your like hands on the keyboard all the time. If I want to, on the second line, and I want to remove that, instead of using my mouse, clicking here, using the arrow key, and then pressing delete, right? Instead, I was over here, right? So what I would do is I would press J, Shift A to go to the end and go into insert mode. And then I would press backspace, and then instead of pressing escape, I mapped it to J and K at the same time. So I pressed J and K at the same time. I wasn't pressing it at the same time. I was at the same time, and now I press escape. So that's how that works right there. So the next thing I use is Obsidian. So here's some notes I took this morning by Matthew Dix, right? He basically is teaching storytelling, and basically just like these are the notes, right? So we go through this. Again, it's the same thing. It's called Vim mode in here. So I believe it's an editor right here, Vim key bindings, right? That's what it is. And again, J and K go up and down, H and L. I have the same thing. So if I want to go to the end, Shift A, I have the same exact key binding. Press J and K at the same time to escape. We have all these, these notes here. And if I wanted to open up another note, instead of like going into the file explorer, like pressing. Okay, so I ran out of the space on my camera, but instead of actually pressing right here and going to the file explorer, trying to click on the page that you want, I can just press space, which triggers a lot of keybinds, right? And then O to search for something, space, and then Shift O to search for anything. So like Just Rain or something, right? There's 2 instances where I talked about them, right? So that's basically how this works. It's actually pretty good. And again, I have another key binding where if I press Windows and then period and apostrophe, I can just go through my different screens. So you don't see this right now. You can see this by the little graph right down here. But it basically just changes like based on which thing I'm actually clicking on. So you can see I'm just switching through this. If I want to put this on the other screen, I'll just do that. It's pretty simple. So if you like this video, you're probably going to like my video on meditation. So go ahead and click on that somewhere around here, or it'll be in the description. So click on that video. I'll see you there. And remember, this is what hard feels like.